Welcome to the Let's Keep It Light podcast, and thanks for listening. In this episode, Ginger and Marcy address light therapy, the FDA, and common sense.
Okay, Marcy Denton, let's talk about light therapy and common sense.
That's a very, very important topic. Yes, absolutely.
Because light therapy is a general wellness device, and we're specifically talking about red and infrared light therapy, blue, and some of these other common wavelengths that are being used right now for home use or in your massage therapist's office or whatever. You know, this general wellness product that the FDA has recently reclassified.
Yes.
Just as that.
So we have opportunities to use photobiomodulation with our household, with our friends, with our children, with our animals. And so what we want to discuss is the common sense use of our products and how we want to stay within a safe use of them and with making, like we say, the common sense use of them.
So let's just talk about the FDA classification that it used to be when I first started using light therapy or photobiomodulation back some, whatever it was, 12 to 15 years. Honestly, I can't remember. It's a long time. Our device was classified as a class 2 medical device, which basically means that's a device that does no harm. But there was a process that manufacturers had to go through to get that classification. It was quite an expensive process for a manufacturer to have to go through that. And then here recently, in the last few years, the FDA has reclassified photobiomodulation products as general wellness.
Correct.
And what year did they change the classification?
The original change was in 2016. Then they cleaned it up because it was confusing. So in 2019, there were some changes that just made it a little more clear.
And distinguished for us, because I'm still using the old terminology a lot. I'm still getting used to referring to our pad-based systems or the bars or the torches or the panels as devices where in fact the new classification would have us refer to those systems as light therapy or photobiomodulation products, not devices, because devices would indicate that it had some ability to diagnose or detect.
To provide information related to the illness or the issue. That is a major change. And it's still within the same paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's in the same paragraph system. So it's not excluded. It's not a separate, category. It's within the general health and wellness. It's just a distinction between whether or not it needs an extra look-see by the FDA. So if your technology doesn't diagnose, it just applies light, and it is LED, and it is functioning as photobiomodulation, they have declared that they have enough evidence that it is considered to be a general health and wellness technology.
Now, a lot of our listening audience, because they're now just becoming aware of light therapy, especially red light and infrared is the big, what's so visible right now, what people are paying attention to. They might think that light therapy is a new thing. Is light therapy a new thing, Marcy?
No, not at all. Not at all. As a commercial product, it is only about 15 or 20 years old. But as a use, think back to my children are 40 and they were put under blue light when they were born because of bilirubin issues. So light has been used for years and years and years, just not called light therapy and not called photobiomodulation.
Well, it might have been called LED light therapy. For example, one of our manufacturers of the pad-based system has been manufacturing for at least 40 years. But he started off by making products for animals. And so for a long time, it was just used in the veterinarian world. And we're going to have a guest on one of our series or a couple of our series talking exclusively about using light and her experience of using light on large animals and dogs and cats and all of that. She'll be going into much more detail than we're going to be going in today. But the research on animals, that was no problem. So they were using light therapy back 40 years ago. And but some of those owners of those animals started saying, well, if my horse is reacting that well to light, to the lights, why can't I put that on my sore knee or my elbow? Let me try it. And so little by little, the equine people started using their horses' equipment, and one thing led to another. And now the same manufacturer is manufacturing it for people.
So when we look at that, there was a very huge, I guess, distinction even years ago when we were doing the heavy research to prove the product that we were selling was safe and effective. So class 2 medical device. So now the definition says that if it has the capacity to diagnose, it is considered to be a wellness device. But if it is simply an application of light, it is a wellness product. The wellness device category puts a couple of caveats on there that says, well, it may need to be tested, it may need to show evidence, it may need to be a little bit more restrictive. So it allows us to go quickly and use and sell and manufacture equipment and technology that doesn't need that extra level of research with the FDA.
So some of the questions that just about general, is this safe? Can I use it? Sort of questions that we get on a regular basis is, well, can I put my light therapy pad on my head and will that help my growth of hair? I saw that in a magazine when I was flying. Do you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. It's wonderful for hair growth.
Why?
Because it stimulates the blood flow, which carries oxygen and nutrients to the cells that make hair and to keep hair alive. So, as crazy as that sounds, that is one of the very first marketing efforts that moved photobiomodulation equipment more from the medical world into the marketing world, into the everyday world. I've had a number of clients bring me their equipment and not happy with it because it didn't grow their hair. And so then we got into the issue of, well, is it strong enough? Does it have the right amount of energy that is needed by the cells on the scalp?
And does that person have enough amino acids or whatever's needed?
It is complicated, but it is definitely one of the first common uses outside of the pain issue that people have used photobiomodulation for.
Okay, and then underneath that, so if they put a pad or a cap with lights on it on their head to regrow their hair, right underneath that scalp is the brain. So do you want to say anything about, anything you might know about the functioning of the brain and photobiomodulation?
In June of 2024, a research article came across my desk, and the incredible new supportive information of the value of transcranial, that means on the cranium, which is the head, the value of that exceeds all expectations. Everything that we could have thought was good about putting light on the cranium, on the head, is just blown up in terms of tremendous evidence of the value. So what's the value? It seems as though the brain also experiences detriment from inflammation, huge, huge issues of inflammation. And so when you apply the light to the brain, to the on the head, it is effectively changing the inflammatory system within the brain. So thinking helps. It helps thinking, it helps cognition, it helps prevent and enhance the simple functioning of the brain and the prefrontal cortex and responses. And who knew how much value it had when we were even afraid to use it early on the head? If you remember, it's been a change in how we evaluated using it. So, and that brings me to how we know something today that we didn't know yesterday and how we will know it tomorrow. And so when we're sitting here and talking about what we know today, it doesn't mean it's the end of the story. It means that this is what we know as best we can express it, and that more and more information is showing up, and it's showing up in regular medical articles, but it's showing up in common articles as well. So how this is affecting the brain is going to show up more. Is what I'm saying is pay attention to your common medical notes and your subscriptions to different things that tell you about weight loss or nutrition or eating well. And now we're going to be hearing more and more research about how light is making a difference in the brain.
One of the things that really changed the focus of my attention and also my work in the energy medicine field was when I stumbled across, actually, I think it was one of my former biofeedback students that sent me the TED Talk, Lessons Learned from 83,000 Brain Scans.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember how many times in class that we played that? Now, after I saw that, I played that for every class. And for the listening audience, Marcy Denton and I and Isabel Martinez developed the LETS Light Therapy Certification Program. And for pre-COVID, everybody came out to Boulder or to wherever we were hosting a class, and we did it live. And so, and they would spend, 4 days with us and then, take an exam and then apply to the board for certification. So once I stumbled across this particular episode, and right now the doctor's name is just escaping me, but it'll pop up. That absolutely changed my understanding. I don't know why I didn't pay attention to the brain enough as the control tower. And I think it's because we didn't know what to do with the brain. So we were working all the other parts of the body. After I saw that, I really started putting light on the brain. One of the things that I learned, not an expert in brain health at all, but through all the research and then the neurologists that we would listen to that or read their research on brain health and cognitive function and some of the pilot studies that were being done, is that, it was thought with traumatic brain injury and concussion, some of these other things that can affect a person's life for the rest of their life, and the veterans coming back from the war, et cetera, is that it was thought that, well, if that part of the brain got injured and those, brain cells were now dead or something, that, too bad. I mean, that's just the way that it was. And, but that if we put light therapy on a person, that on their brain, that their brain actually, that those cells were not in a coma, they were, that you could actually wake them up.
That makes me think of all the issues that we have today that is common, which is fibromyalgia. That's considered to be some brain inflammation. It's systemic inflammation, but it's considered to be part of the brain issue. Parkinson's, again, another neurological, neuro meaning brain or tissue or nerve issue. And so much research is now being done to see what light will do for Parkinson's. And then Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is one of the specialties I have. And one of the most exciting aspects of using light with Alzheimer's is that there is some real hope. And we'll be able to share that with you in a later podcast. But the gift of photobiomodulation on the brain is just now being expressed in real time, and it's just going to be more and more in your life, in articles and so forth. So stay tuned.
So just like we said in an earlier episode, is that, what organ or system of the body couldn't be enhanced or improved by an increase in circulation? So certainly if we can get some light into the brain, there's just a real good possibility that's going to help the function, even if there was some sort of injury to the brain.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
The one caution that I would add to using light therapy on the head is that if there is a possibility of a brain bleed because of a recent injury, that's when we wouldn't use light until that person was cleared by their physician, and that's, not present anymore. If in question, don't use the light and just have them clear it with their physician. So this is about common sense use of light therapy. Okay. So another thing is, on that question that we get asked a lot is, well, how about using it on children? How young of a child could you use it on? How long do you use it? On most of the light therapy systems, like we use, the pads, the torches, the panels, mostly what I use are the pads. I am an older parent, and so I had all of my children using light therapy. And my daughter used it ever since she was 10 years old. As a matter of fact, when I first got my system, she would use it every day. And I was packing up to go to a trade show. And since it was the newest piece of equipment that I had, I was packing that up. And she said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to a trade show. I'm packing my equipment," because we had a booth for holistic health, energy medicine. So she said, "I know, but what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm packing up my equipment." She said, "Well, you can't take the light therapy." And I said, "Yes, I can. It's my business." She goes, "No, you can't take that. I use it all the time." And so she would use it to help her relax and to help her sleep. As she became a teenager and she developed pimples, she used the red and the blue light on her face to help with the acne. Blue light is notoriously good for skin conditions and acne and bacteria. And acne is coming from bacteria. So she used that her whole teenage life. As a matter of fact, she's an adult now, living married and living away from home, of course, and has her own light therapy device.
Marcy Denton and Dr. Ginger Bowler are certified light therapy instructors and co-founders of the Light and Energy Training Seminar Certification Program. You can send us an email with your questions and comments to podcast@letskeepitlight.com, and be sure to visit us on Facebook and Instagram. This episode was engineered and mixed by Dr. Decibel Productions. I'm Sarah Weston. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Let's Keep It Light.